Hello guys, Jeff is here again. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be taking you guys through the step on how you can understand Photoshop. Now, this tutorial is basically for those who want to learn Photoshop as a beginner or for those who want to actually advance their knowledge in Photoshop. Now, I would like you guys to follow me through this and I'm going to be taking you through the step-by-step process on how you can understand Photoshop. Either you are a beginner or you want to advance your skill in Photoshop. All right. So first thing first, you need to make sure that you're having Photoshop in your computer. So I'm actually having Photoshop, and what I'm having is Photoshop 2021. That's what I'm using. So for those of you that are not having Photoshop, I'm going to be dropping a link in the description. All you have to do is to tap on the link, and then you can be able to use the free trials for Photoshop. Though it's actually going to be for some days, then you have to pay for Photoshop before you can be able to use it. All right, so I'm just going to be opening my Photoshop. Like I said, I'm using Photoshop 20. All right, so this is it actually opening. So for those of you who are actually wondering, is Photoshop really for me? Photoshop is actually difficult for me. I will not be able to learn Photoshop. That's not true. Photoshop is actually for everyone. So what is Photoshop actually used for? Now you can use Photoshop in designing. I can also use it in editing pictures or manipulating. Now you are going to understand how you can actually use all of this as we proceed. All right, all you have to do is you get your Photoshop ready on your computer and then follow me through this tutorial because I'm going to show you how we can do all of this step by step. All right, so when you open your Photoshop, this is just how it's going to be looking like. Now, the next thing you're going to do is actually to create a new document or open a document. Now, opening a document you've actually designed before. Now, we are going to be opening a new document. So we'll just click on this create new. Good. After opening this, then right here is where we can put in some of our details like the width, the height, the name, the resolution, the color mode, and then we can also put in the background content. Now this is white. White is actually like a default. Then we can use any other color here of our choice, but we are going to be using white. Then here is where you can get any custom size. Here, also here, and then the rest. So after you've actually gotten a size, then you can just come down here and tap on create. After you've created the document, it now brings you here. So this is where you don't have to start your editing or your designing in Photoshop. All right, so right up here is where you get the menu. We have the file, the edit, the image, the layer type, and the rest of that. While here is where you get the options bar. Now this part is called the options bar. Why is it called the options bar? Because if for instance I should actually click on any of the tool, because this is where you get all the tools. Now, if I should click on any tool of my choice here, this actually changes. So I'm going to be clicking on this. Now you see this, it actually changes. Now, this is actually what we call the brush tool, and we are going to find more options concerning the brush tool right here. So that is why it is called the option bar. All right, so here is where you find your tools, and then this part, the most important here is actually the layers. This is where we get to arrange whatever we bring into our design if we want to arrange it. Now that's we're going to actually understand what that means when we get there. So this is just the basic that you need to understand here. All right, so if your Photoshop is not actually looking like this, all you have to do now is to come right straight to Windows. Maybe for instance they are all having maybe some extra tools or whatsoever. So all you have to do is come to your Windows, come to Workspace, and then you click on Essentials. Now all of these are the different types, but we should use the Essentials, which is the default. Then also your tools, these are all your tools here. Now sometimes you might actually find something like this on Photoshop where the tools is actually laid into two lines. Now this is how you can actually do that from this arrow here. You can either make it just a line or two, so whichever one. So at times I just prefer to use this, but whichever one you choose to use, they can all work well. Now, this white part is actually your workspace. This is your workspace where you can get to design, and whatever you are designing in Photoshop, it has to remain just inside here. So from importing to designing and the rest of that. Now, when it comes to importing, how can we now import an image? We are going to see how we can import an image, and then we are now going to see how we can use some of these tools. While we are doing that, we are understanding it and we're using it on the image. So how can we now import an image here? All you have to do now is move over to your files, click on your files. So when you found your image, all you have to do is just click, hold, and drag it. Now, if you should drag it directly straight inside your workspace here, it's actually going to reduce the quality. So what you have to do now is for you to drag it up on this. Good. Now, when you drag it on top of this here, it actually brings in the image directly, and now it keeps the same quality. All right. So how can we now use the first tool, which is the move tool? Now, if you take notes, whichever tool I actually hover on, it gives me an example of how I can use that tool. And also, you'll find the shortcut for that tool. Now, the move tool, this is it here, V. If I should click on the move tool, I can be able to move this. But why I can't move this now is because this is a background. This is a background. So for me to be able to move this, I need to come right straight to my layers. Remember, I said we're making use of the layers here. But as we continue, we're going to understand what the layers are. So I'll come over to my layers here, and then I'm going to unlock this. Now, if I should click on this, I can be able to move this. So I'm just going to undo this. All right, so now it is now back as my background. So because I'm going to be making use of this, I can just do well to maybe duplicate or unlock it. All right, the next one here is actually the rectangular marquee tool. Now, how can I be able to use this? This is actually like a selection tool for me to be able to select, but it's going to be in a rectangular shape. Now, if I want to select this, for instance, I can just come here to highlight this, and then it is being selected. So with this rectangular marquee tool, I can be able to select but in a rectangular form. Now, if you note, some of the tools or almost all of them are having a little arrow down here. Now, that is where you get some other tools are in there. Now, for instance, this right here, this rectangular marquee tool, I should click on this little arrow down here. It actually brings options for others. Now, this is the rectangular marquee, this is the elliptical, the single row, and the single column. So all of these are actually selection tool. You can use it in selecting, but this one is going to be in a rectangular form. This is elliptical, single row, and single column. The next we have is what we call the lasso tool. This is actually what you can use in making freehand selections. Now, for instance, I want to select this. So I'll just click, and then I can move this. Good. Now you see this is actually freehand. Now I was now able to actually select this particular image. So if I want to copy this image now, what I do is just Control C or Control J to bring it out. Now you see this here. Let me close the background and you see this. So with this particular tool here, I can be able to get a freehand selection. So I'm just going to undo. Good. So for me to deselect it, Control D to deselect. The next one is what we call the quick selection tool. Now with this quick selection tool, I can be able to select just this image right here. I can come over to my select subject and click. Then I'll be able to select just this image right here. Select subject. So before we do this, we need to make sure that we have selected the layer that we want to select the subject. So it's actually selecting the subject. Now this is it. Now this is actually what is really amazing about Photoshop. You can actually select this. Now, if I've selected this, I can now duplicate it. Control J is to duplicate. Now, if I should close the background, main background, I'm left with just this one. So I can use whichever one of my choice. So I can decide to use the freehand or I can use the selection tool. So if you should come up here where we have the option tool, now I'm bit selected. Now I clicked on this quick selection tool, which I can use in selecting. If I do not want to use this select subject, I can decide to use any of these. This plus icon is for you to be able to highlight. Now, if you look at this thing right here that I'm moving right here, it's too small. So I want to increase it. All I have to do is to come here and then I will see the size. I can increase the size of it. This is now the hardness. This one is the hardness. Now look at it. It's now bigger. So I guess I'll reduce it a little. All right. So if I want to select, all I have to do is to click. The more I click, the more it's selecting it. See this? Selecting it. Good. Now I'm done with my selection. So if I want to remove a particular part, I can come over to this, click, and then I can unselect a particular part. Unselect all these parts or deselect them. You see this? Or I can even decide to click, hold, and drag it. So this is it, just like this. So Control D to deselect. The next one is the crop tool. The shortcut for this is just C. So the crop tool, I can be able to crop this image. See this? I can be able to crop the image whichever way I want. You see this right here. Good. So with this, I can be able to crop my image. And with this right here, I can be able to rotate my cropping. If it's landscape, I can turn it to being portrait. So this is it here. When I'm done, I just click on this and then I'm done with my cropping. All right, so the next one we have is the frame tool. Now this frame tool, and how can we make use of the frame? Now let's take for instance, I created a frame here. Now with this frame, I can put in this image inside this frame. After clicking on the frame tool, you come here to draw your frame. This actually serves as a placeholder for your image where you can actually put in your image. So this is it here. I've drawn my frame. So if I want my image now to fit in or to be the same size as my frame, I can come right straight to my image here and double click on this. Now when I do that, it creates a new document with my image in my frame. This is it right here. So I'm just going to go back and then I undo this. The next one is the eyedropper. The eyedropper, we can be able to use it to pick colors. We can pick any color of our choice, our image. Any color of our choice, we can be able to pick it. Now, whichever color we pick, it actually brings it right here. We are going to see what these are. These are colors. These are this is the foreground and this is the background. So this color right here, if I should actually click on any color, it changes it. Let me select the color. You see this, it changes it. So how can I also change this one behind here? All I have to do is to click on this and then I can come here to pick any color and then I can change it. So this actually changes the color. So whichever one is in front, that is the one you're actually working with. All right, we have what we call the spot healing brush. Now this spot healing brush, it helps to erase anything from your image. Now, if I should use the spot healing brush, I would like to zoom in. To zoom in is Control and your plus on your keyboard to zoom in. To zoom out is Control and the minus on your keyboard. Alright, so let's say I want to actually erase something from here using the spot healing brush. Now let's say this is it here. All I have to do is just tap on it. So if I want to make use of the spot healing brush, now take note of what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to select the layers. Now, this particular image having a background, that is what I want to use. So I'll come here to click on this one because this is the one having a background. I'll come over to my background there. I'll hold my Alt and then I click continue. Good. Then now I'll move over to my image here, which is this one. This is actually on top of this. That is why it's up here. So after I move over to my image, then I just click. You see this? Now, what is this actually doing here? It's picking this color here and applying it on this. So if I should hold my Alt and I click here, continue, I can actually do the same thing on this. You see this? So if you should actually take your time in doing this, you master it. Good. So this is how we can actually work with our spot healing brush. Now the next one is what we call the brush tool. Now with the brush tool, you can be able to do some brushing on your image or even that of your design. So for us to be able to increase the size of this, we come up here. Remember this, this is where you come to. You tap on this and then you can increase the size. Alright, so this is actually a type of brush. There are different types of brush. You click on this, look at them here. They're all here. So with the brush, you can be able to add some brushings on your image. So that is for the brush tool. Alright, the next one is actually the clone stamp tool. Now with the clone stamp tool, I'll click on it. I want to increase the size a little. Now the clone stamp tool, this is how it works. I'll hold my alt and then I click. Now if I should now come here and I start, you see this? Now if you're looking at this plus right here, it is actually following it. So the more I'm shading this, the more it is bringing out a particular part from that image. So you see this? So if I want to get the hand, I'll come here. I want to get down here, do like this. And this is where the image actually stops down here. That is why it is having a straight line here. Come over here, shine this out. Now this is what we call the clone stamp tool. It actually copies what you have selected and then reapply it again. It's what we call the history brush. Now, how can we make use of the history brush? It actually restores part of an image to an earlier state. Now, I'll come to my healing brush. Let me increase the size of this. Good. Then I can now come here to shade this out. Remember, it restores. So you see this? I've actually cleaned what was here earlier. So that is why it is called the healing brush. So the next one is the eraser tool. We all know what eraser is used for, to erase. So if we want to erase this, we can just simply do like this for us to be able to erase this. So just going to undo all of this. We do not want to erase them. All right. So it is very, very important. We should take note anytime we actually want to start using any of these tools. It is important if we create a new layer. So to create a new layer is right here. You click on this, you'll be able to create a new layer. If you want to delete a layer, you click on the layer in which to delete and come down here to delete a layer. Yes, delete a layer. So we are going to see another tool which is called the paint bucket tool. So how can we use the paint bucket tool? If we want to apply a color here, for instance, this is how we just do it using the paint bucket tool. All you have to do is you just click on it and then it gives you the color from your foreground. This is what I mean by foreground. This is it here. If I want to change this color, I click on this. I can come here to change the color, click OK. Then if I should come here and click on this background, it changes it to the color I'm actually using. So I can change this to any color. So if you notice, it is actually happening on just the background, not on our image. It is happening like that because I did a duplicate here. I did select object and then I duplicated it. That is why I'm having this here. And then it is happening, this color is actually happening on this. You see this here? You see this? Good. Alright, so we also have what we call the smudge tool. So for the smudge tool and that of the sponge tool, it actually helps in editing of your images. So if you really want to edit your image, you can come right up here to image and then the most important here is the adjustments. Then if you see them, they actually group. This first part, it actually deals with brightness of your image. So if we want to add some brightness, we can come here to brightness and contrast. This comes out and then we can increase the brightness and then also that of the contrast of our image. Then click on OK. So this is how we can actually use that when it comes to re-editing our image, because these two they also deals with editing an image. So this is actually called the pen tool. What can we use the pen tool for? We can use it in also selecting. You can click, you move, you click, you move, you click. You can do that around image and then come back to where you started from. So this is actually what you can use your pen tool for. You just click, click and select. And also you can decide to use your pencil to create, use your pencil to create a shape. Now, like I said earlier, anything you want to do, make sure you create a new layer for it so that when you want to edit it, it's going to be more easier for you to edit that particular layer. So if you look at this now, if I'm trying to actually select this pen, so this shape I drew here, I can't do that. Why? Because I'm using it on one layer. Both this image and the pen tool are on one layer. So if I'm selecting it, trying to move it, it's moving the image and giving the pen. All right. So the next one here is text. How can we make use of our text? You can just click on a text and you can type whatsoever you wish to type. All right. So now let's have something here. I'll click here. Now I'm going to be having something like this. Now after having this, if I decide to change my color, remember this up here is for your options. This is your option. So I can come here now to change my color. I want to use white, and then I click OK. Good. I've changed it. If I also want to change the font, I come here for me to be able to change the font. Good. So there are so many fonts here. So if you actually want to learn how you can install fonts in your computer, you can do well to hit this video right up here. That video is going to take you through the step on how you can be able to install fonts, any font in your computer. All right. So that is for that. So this is concerning just our text. So let's see something we can actually do with our text. Let me increase the text. Good. And then I can put it somewhere here. All right. So now this is actually where the layers comes in. Now I want to send this text behind this particular image. What do I have to do? I'll just bring down my text here for my layers and bring it down to my image. So I'll just click, hold, and drag it there. All right. So it's actually there. Why it is not showing is because this particular image is actually having a background. See this? It is having a background. So let's say I'm going to be deleting this. Good. Then this particular one, we are going to get this image again. We're going to select it. So come here, select subject. So this is just how I prefer to select my image when I want to use the image without a background. So after selecting it, I can now duplicate it, which is Ctrl J. Good. Now this is it. So now my text, I can now move it down here. All right. Now this is it. So you see the YouTube is right there. Good. I can decide to take it up a little. Good. So when you actually see something like this is how they did it. So first, they duplicated the image. One is having a background, while the other no background, and then your text is going to come in between the one with the background and the one without a background. That is for the text. Now, this tool, you can be able to use it to create a shape. Now, come over to the rectangle tool, for instance, and then I can come here. I can be able to create my shape here. So if I actually want to curve the edges of my shape, I just click and drag this to curve the edges. And I can also do well to change the colors from here. So all of this is actually under the properties. If I should take this out, I select my image first, come over to properties, and I click. These are all the properties here. I can decide to work on my shape with any of this. All right, the next one here is the hand tool. With my hand tool, I can be able to move my design whichever way. I can move it, click, hold, and drag it whichever way I wish. So this one is the zoom tool. With the zoom tool, I can zoom in and out of my workspace. So remember, the other way to do zoom in and out is using the control and the minus on the keyboard, or the plus to zoom in and out. All right. So we've actually discussed about this last one here, which is the foreground color and the background color. Using any of this will actually be applying on our design. Now remember, we are using this, that is why this color is here. So we can also add some stroke to our shape. So if there is actually a shape we want to create, maybe we don't know about that shape, we don't know about that shape, we can do well to use the pencil in creating a shape. So this is just the brief explanation concerning how we can use the tools in Photoshop. Now, if you move over to this, remember we're discussing about the layers. So these are all the layers, and like I said, whichever thing you want to insert into your design, you should make sure you create a layer first. Then if you should come here, you find layer styles. All of these are actually layer styles. I'll click on my blending options. Now, when you click on your blending options, all of this comes out. We have the bev one emboss, we have the contour, we have the texture, we have the stroke, and all of this. So let's take, for instance, we want to try out one. Now, let's say we want to try out this bev one emboss. Remember, this is what we selected. This is it. So we want to try the bev one emboss on this first. Let me deselect it first. Now, just look at the way it's looking. Then if I click on my bev one emboss, you see this? It is now looking somehow like a 3D. So under the bev one emboss here, we have the opacity. This is where you can reduce the opacity of the image you have. Then this is also the layer. So this is where you get to reduce the opacity for your bevel and emboss. So if you move over to your contour here, your contour, you'll find so many other options. Click on this and then you can use any contour here. All right, so let's say another one we can use. Let's say for instance we want to make use of the stroke. How can we now make use of the stroke? First we click on our stroke and then this is the size. You can increase the size of your stroke, outside, inside, or center. We want it outside. The opacity, you can reduce the opacity or increase it, and then the color, you can choose to use any color of your choice for your stroke. Click on OK, and then this is it here. It's actually going to be applying it on this. So this is how we can use this right here, which is the layer style. Now, if you move over to this is also another layer where you can fill, or this is also another amazing tool where you can fill or adjust your layers. Now, I use this most especially when it comes to me editing my images. I can increase the brightness or reduce. Also that of the levels, the curves and the exposure. Now, let's see how we can use one here. Let's try the levels. Now, with the levels, with this, if you keep going forward, it's making it darker. Taking it backward is making it lighter. So sometimes I just try to make it blend or make it look good to the eyes. So I can just make it a little bit darker, make it a little bit darker, and make this one lighter a little. Right. So you can actually go around with this, play around with it, and see how you can actually master it on your own. So this is actually for the layers. If you notice, whichever thing we've added here, it is actually coming right straight to our layers. All right. So this is just how we can actually understand Photoshop as a beginner. So some of the things we actually mentioned here, even if you have been using Photoshop for some time now, you will also find them useful. All right, so in our next tutorial, we are now going to see some other ways we can actually use Photoshop and become a pro or a professional in Photoshop. So I would like you guys to hit the subscribe button because in our next videos or coming videos, we are also going to see some other amazing ways on how we can actually design with Photoshop, also to edit our images and design some graphics. All right, so see you guys now next class and stay safe.